everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is really weird. It's kind of awkward. I'm in the room by myself talking to a camera. I've never done anything like this before. So my channel will be mainly about like beauty related things, makeup, maybe some clothes because I like clothes, but mainly about makeup and things, products that I like, things like that. But my first video is going to kind of be like an about me, like my story, what kind of led me to want to do this and how I got to where I am right now in life. So that's what this one will be, but the rest of them will be about makeup. So like, subscribe, comment, share. You know what to do, okay? Okay. As far back as I can remember, I was raised in church. We were there Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. We were there. We were so about that life that this is just a little sad story. If you were, raised in church, you probably know that like churches did like Halloween things there, like so people could come to them. We would normally go trick-or-treating like at my grandmother's and then go to the church. So one year my mom decides that she gets me this big white t-shirt and we go out to the yard, we pick leaves, she glues the leaves like all over the t-shirt, and then somehow gets a string, threads it through the apple, and I wear it as a necklace. Yeah, so my mom decided that I should be Eve, like the lady who brought sin into the world, because like why not be an angel, like I can't be an angel, I have to be Eve. So that's how about that life we were there all the time. So I was very fortunate in that area, and I was raised in church, like had church friends, went to church camp, and so in the 4th grade, I got saved. And also in the 4th grade, this is like, I didn't really know at the time, like, what was going on, but my parents were fighting a lot, and my sister was a teenager, so she was obviously doing teenager-y things, and they were arguing. I remember them fighting with each other. I would just sit on my bed with my hands over my ears, like I didn't really understand what was going on. Like I knew that there were issues, but I really didn't know what was happening. Somehow, I don't remember how, things resolved, and we went on with life. I never really questioned anything because I was young. No one really ever explained anything to me. So I just carried on with life. I didn't really process that at all. I just moved on. So, middle school, high school, I was always kind of like a scared kid. Like I was probably shy, but I think I was just mainly scared, like, of anything, everything, people, the world, everything. So, like middle school, high school, I developed faster than most of the girls my age, and a lot of my friends had boyfriends or like had guys that liked them. I feel like I did too, but like I just didn't really care. Like I remember 4th grade, my friend, like one of my best friends, her brother was like my first boyfriend, and like I said, I was scared. I was scared of boys, and he, I broke up with him because he tickled me. Yeah, so that's how mature I was and how, bad I needed a boyfriend. So I remember boys being like interested in my friends, but I don't know if I just didn't pay attention or if I was just ugly or something. Like, I don't know. So anyway, I kind of dressed like a boy when I was younger. Yeah. So in high school, going into high school, like the summer before high school, I remember I was at a friend's house and my mom picked me up that day because it was a Sunday. We were going to go to church, so she was picking me up. So on the way home, I remember her saying, she asked me, she said, so what would you do if me and your dad got a divorce? And I remember thinking, like, why would you ask me that? Like what? Like, obviously that's about to happen because you're asking me that. And I'm pretty sure I said, like, probably never talk to y'all again, which I was a teenager. I was 13, 14. So that was my answer to that. So I guess I didn't, like, then it kind of clicked with me, everything. Like, I didn't really pay attention because I was just, involved with my friends. Like, I didn't really care. My parents were annoying at the time. But if I had paid attention, like, I would have realized that, the months before that, like, they weren't, like, they would sit in separate rooms at night, like, they wouldn't be in the same room. So I would have noticed that there were issues, but I didn't because I was a teenager and I didn't care. That was going into 9th grade, and this time things, I could understand better what was going on, what happened. I remember when my mom told me that, I called my best friend at the time. I was babysitting that day, and I called her and I said her parents were divorced, but I remember telling her, I'm pretty sure my parents are about to get a divorce, and crying, obviously, mad, angry. So I remember my dad sitting down on the bed with me and kind of explaining things that happened, and telling me that they were going to get a divorce and that my mom was going to move out. And I've never seen my dad cry. That's the first time I saw my dad cry. That happened. So in middle school, like, I made really, really good grades. I really don't know how. I mean, I guess I maybe was smart then. But I was in the beta club, 94 average and above. But once I got into the 9th grade, like, with everything that had happened, I was checked out. Like, I didn't care about anything but not thinking about life. So, like, I would hang out with friends. I would do anything and everything not to have to focus on hard things in life. So, like, school, 9th grade, like, that's a pretty big year and for a person in general. So 9th grade, I made 5 F's on one report card. 5. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It's embarrassing, but whatever. So I just wasn't focused. I didn't care at all. Like I said, I was checked out. So I feel like I still was really involved in church. Like, I had my friends, like, the majority of my friends were from church. So I feel like, had I not grown up in a Christian home and gotten saved at an early age, I probably would have went crazy and done a lot of things differently than I did. But luckily, that didn't happen. So 8th, 9th grade, I had my first boyfriend, like real, well, I guess you could call it a real boyfriend. Like, we really couldn't go on dates. I think my sister took us to the movies before, and we hung out at church. And obviously that didn't last. But I feel like I learned that I could use like humor and things like that to cover up how I actually felt with things. Now, not always. Like I enjoy making people laugh. Like I feel like I can do that really well usually. I'm just kind of weird and like act goofy and act stupid sometimes, and I'm okay with that. Um, but I did use like a lot of the times, and still probably even now, like I would make fun of a situation to cover up how it really made me feel. So I learned how to do that then, and I feel like this is when like a lot of my insecurities started happening, because like I said, I had developed faster than all the girls. Like all the girls that I cheered with were like petite, smaller girls. I was super tall. I was taller than most of the boys. I was just more developed than the girls, and that made me feel at the time like I was fat, which I was absolutely not fat at all. But since I was, comparing myself to all these other girls, it made me feel insecure because, like we cheered, like I was the tallest girl on the squad. I was probably the biggest girl, like I say the biggest girl. I was the tallest girl. So, and I was just bigger than all the girls. So I feel like my insecurities kind of started there about myself. Like, and there was a guy that I had like a huge crush on. He was like my first real like kiss, and I remember I obviously really liked him. I don't know what he was doing or what he was thinking. Like I try to tell myself like, oh, he likes me, he's flirting with me. But when the time that we kissed, I remember him telling me, don't tell anyone. So I'm like, what? Don't tell anyone? Like that made me feel like, oh, he's embarrassed of that. Now I know as an adult, like that had nothing to do with that, I don't think. It had to do with a lot of other things. But so that made me feel like, oh, he's embarrassed of me. It's because of the way that I am. That's why he's embarrassed. So through high school, like I can't remember when I had like that first real kiss. I was probably like 16, probably 17. I don't know. So I met my ex-husband through a mutual friend of ours. He went to high school with him. I went to church with a guy. I had met him before, but I just really didn't think anything of it. He was goofy. Like I thought, oh, he's funny, whatever. So my senior year, we started dating. October of my senior year. So he was like my first like real relationship that I had ever had. At the time, I feel like I probably knew that he wasn't the type of guy that I should be dating or pursuing, that fit into my lifestyle of the life that I should be living as a Christian. I've always been the type of person that like wants to help people, and like felt like if I could just help them or if I could just fix them, like that would be, that would make me happy. I had multiple friends through high school live with me, like girls, like probably like 4 girls that like literally lived with me. They would move in with me. My dad was super like laid back. Like our house was like the house that everybody came to. He didn't really worry about things that I was doing. Like I didn't have a curfew. He trusted me. I could go do things on the weekends. I could have people over. Like he just trusted me. So anyways, me and my ex-husband dated. I graduated. He was 2 years older than me, so he had already graduated. I never really felt like anyone, which it wasn't their job to do it, but I never felt like my parents, probably because they didn't go to college, like anyone ever said like, hey, what do you want to do when you graduate? Like, this is important. You should try to figure that out. Like, I never feel like anybody did that for me. So I decided after I graduated to go to school to be an esthetician. I went for 3 months. The school that I went to was horrible. The girls there were horrible. I just did not like it. So I thought it would be more makeup related, and it was more of like, let's do facials, let's wax. I'm like, no, thank you. So I quit that 3 months into it, and my ex-husband had joined the National Guard, and he went to boot camp. I started dental assisting school, and it was like a year-long program. So I started dental assisting school while he was at boot camp. I went to see him graduate, and when I went to see him graduate, I actually passed out at the airport. I had never flown before. I was flying by myself for the first time. My plane was like delayed 3 hours. I was going to miss my connecting flight in Dallas. I went up there I hadn't left to eat because I was scared to go get something to eat because I was scared if I left I would miss my flight. So I went up to the desk, and they were like explaining to me like, okay, we're going to give you a hotel in Dallas for the night, and you'll have to get a connecting flight in the morning. So I was like nervous. I thought I was going to miss like his graduation. So as she's like sliding me the voucher for the hotel and to get some food later on, I pass out. Like, I fall over on the ground. Like, there was a girl beside me. I don't even know what happened to her. I woke up, there were people all around me. They called my mom. They said that my eyes were rolling. They told her that my eyes were rolling in the back of my head and that I was like gurgling. They told her I had a seizure. They weren't going to let me fly, but the paramedics like checked me out and I was fine. So I went there. I stayed in Dallas for the night, and then that next morning I got a flight. I got on the flight to Oklahoma. So there is where he asked me to marry him. We got engaged there. So I come back. I didn't even have a ring. I come back engaged. And it was a pretty short engagement, I think. Like, we were engaged probably about a year. So we got married in August of 2008. He, National Guard, I think he went 1 weekend a month and like 2 weeks out of the year in the summer is all he had to do. So he was basically in school and worked our entire marriage. Like, he's in school right now. We're not even married. So he had been in school that whole time. Like, he went to school to be an RN, so he did that, and then he had to go back and get a bachelor's, and then he was doing some other things so that he could get into school, what he's in now, to be a CRNA. So this is kind of like, when we got married, we did not, we were young. I was 20, he was 22. We didn't really talk to each other the way that a married couple should, or anybody in a relationship, period, should talk to each other. I kind of felt like the only thing that mattered to him was his school. I didn't really feel like I was important at all, so this kind of like drove a wedge in our relationship, and it was hard. Like, I didn't hardly make any money, and he, National Guard paid for his school, I think, basically, but he didn't really make any money either. He was working at a hospital, and he, at one time he had like a couple of jobs, so he was working really hard, and like, I appreciated that, but there were needs that I had that were not being met, so we kind of like started growing apart. Well, like 2 years into our marriage, I decided, like, I want a baby. Like, there were people having babies, and I felt like I wanted something for me. And like, to me, that was something for me. Like, I was just working, like I wasn't doing anything else. I just felt like I was just kind of living. And so he didn't at the time really want that, but he okayed it because probably just shut me up. So I didn't get pregnant right away. Like, it took 9 months, and finally, like the last month, the doctor put me on some medicine because I wasn't ovulating right. He did tests before that, but finally, the month that I took that medicine, I got pregnant. So my family had to help pay for a lot of things. They paid for a lot of his schooling, and so they had to help us a lot in that area because we didn't make any money at the time. So probably when Blaze was about 6, Blaze was a really hard baby. Like, if he was awake, he was crying. I remember sitting in the floor crying, him crying. I would have to turn the blow dryer on. That was like, noises like that helped him not cry. Like, it was horrible. Like, it was really bad. So it was about 6 months old. My ex-husband was found out he was going to get deployed, so we rented out our house. We moved in with my grandmother so that me and Blaze wouldn't have to be alone during that time that he was deployed. So pretty sure he finished school to be an RN, the RN program, and so he was done right before he was having to leave. And it ended up to where they canceled their deployment, so he didn't have to leave. So we were at my grandmother's. So we went and bought a brand new house that we probably had no business buying, but we thought, like, he's finished with school, he's about to start making money. We needed out, so we just used our old house as a rental. Fast forward, like, things like, he still worked a lot. Like, he worked a lot so that we could pay for things. And I kind of just focused on Blaze. Like, I didn't really pay attention. We both did not pay attention to our marriage. And things just kind of, like, we were just pretty much just living in the same house. Normally, like, we sometimes would not see each other for days. We wouldn't even talk to each other for days, and that was normal, that's not normal at all. But that was normal to us because, like I said, like, we weren't happy. I pretended to be happy. He pretended like everything was fine. It wasn't horrible the entire time. It's not like we just, like, sat around like, oh, I hate you. Like, no, it wasn't like that. Like, there were times that were fine. I remember, like, we would fight a lot, and I remember saying, like, I had books, and I'm like, here, please read this book. Like, we've got to work on this. Like, we've got to fix this because it's going to end badly if we don't. Like, I don't want that to happen. Like, we had both said earlier on, like, we had, like, our parents were divorced, so we didn't want that for our child. Blaze, going into kindergarten, like right before kindergarten, Blaze got really sick. He had something called ITP, which is a bleeding disorder. He was in the hospital. I was a very scared mom. Like, I mean, obviously your first child, like most moms are. So, like, and that was a pretty big deal, like, to me. Like, I had never heard of what he had, and he had to stay at Le Bonheur for a couple days, and what it was is, like, something with his platelets. Like, when he got a virus, his platelets got, like, super low, so if he were to get hurt, like, he could bleed and keep bleeding and not stop bleeding. So they worried about, like, internal bleeding, so I was, like, super protective of him, and he actually had to go to St. Jude because that's where, like, the doctors were that could treat him. And so that, like, I had to go to a lot of the appointments by myself sometimes, because his dad had to work, and could not work. So that was when Blaze was like going into kindergarten. We had to go through all that. And we were just both still like focused on really different things in life. And as a girl, like, it's really hard to do things, you know, when you don't feel loved. And there was just a lot of insecurities, period, there. So we just kind of grew apart. We fought a lot. And so fast forward March of 2017, I remember like the phone bill, like it was weird. So like higher than normal. So I decided to go look at the phone bill. And I noticed like a number on there. It was on there like a whole bunch, like it was crazy, like long hours talking on the phone, text messages like crazy. So I called the number, and when I called the number, it was a girl, and I questioned her, and she didn't really give me any information. So my ex-husband was not home at the time, so I called him, and it obviously took him off guard. I think they had probably talked to each other before I actually got to talk to him, because their stories were pretty similar. So he came home and told me that it was nothing, that he knew that it was inappropriate. It was someone that he worked with. They were just friends. No big deal. After him saying that they were just friends, it was a really hard time during that 2 weeks. I feel like I knew, you know, deep down that it wasn't what he was saying that it was, but I wanted things to work so bad that I just ignored that. And I was having a really hard time. I felt depressed, and so about 2 weeks later, he was leaving to go to work. He said he had to go into work early that day, and that specific day I was having a really hard time. I remember I was sitting outside when he was leaving, just sitting out there thinking, and he came out there, and he could obviously tell that I was having a hard time, and he left. And when he left, I decided to go in, and I opened up the computer, and I found messages that it was very clear that it wasn't just a friendship. So I called him, and he obviously could not deny it at that point, because it was right there in front of me. He did not come home that night. He stayed at work because he knew that it just wouldn't be good if he came home. And once we did talk about it, he decided during that time that he did not feel like that we could work things out, that he just wasn't in it anymore. And so me and Blaze moved into my grandmother's, and during that time I still was talking to him some. Obviously we have a child together, we have to talk, and we somehow, he decided that he wanted to try to work on things. So we were only at my grandmother's until probably the end of April. So we moved back home, and when we moved back home, I should have demanded that there was no privacy. He worked with her, so I feel like I should have said like that we can't, because you're gonna see her there, so that's not gonna work. So I didn't do any of that. I was scared. I was scared to demand any of those things like I should have. And if he truly wanted to work on things, I feel like that would have, he would have provided that for me. And so during this time from about beginning of May to November, we worked on things. There were times it was very obvious that there was still something, like things weren't right. It wasn't the whole time. We were working on things, but things would come up, or I would find something and it would be things that normally you would question. And sometimes I did question them. Sometimes I ignored it because I did not want to face, the truth or go through that again. Like I said, I was scared. If I said something to him, that would make him do it again if he wasn't already doing it again. And during this time, I didn't tell my family or my friends the things that I would find because I didn't want them to be like, hey girl, wake up, it's happening, and you're in denial. I didn't want to hear that. Even though I knew that deep down, I would just ignore it. I would just go and I would sit on the couch, usually at nighttime, and just pray that God would remove that. Because when I decided to go back home and work on things, I was really praying about it, and I feel like God was telling me, go back home, work on it. You need to do that, because I didn't want to. Like, I was mad at him for doing this. I was in the same horrible, crappy marriage that he was in, and I didn't go do that. So I was just mad in general. So at nighttime, I would go pray, and I felt like if God had me there, it was for a reason. So until I had another reason to remove myself, I wasn't going to. So I would sit there at night and pray that if I didn't have a reason to be worrying, that he would take that away from me. Because a lot of the times when things like this happen, I felt like, I'm like, how am I ever, like, I was there, but how was I ever going to be normal in this marriage with that in the back of my mind? But I knew that if that's what God wanted me to do, that he would take that away from me. I know there would still be insecurities, times that I was scared, but I felt like he would help me get past that. So, no one really knew what was going on, besides like my family, like a couple people at work, and like my best friends. So during this time, I was like consumed with anxiety and worry and just fear constantly. Like, if I was awake, I was thinking about it. If he was not in my sight, I was terrified. Even when he was in my sight, sometimes I was terrified. If he picked up his phone, it was like panic would just shoot through me. Like, it was horrible. Like, it just consumed me. Like, I couldn't think about anything else. And so, we got to the point where we had this tracker on our phones that would tell me, where he was. I could watch it. If he left the house, I could see. And even seeing that, it was like I could not have a peace. Even then, I would be like, well, I can see where he is, but that doesn't mean that he's alone, So it was just a lot of fear during that time. And so, like I said, that was from April to November. In November, there was a huge traumatic blow-up situation that happened, and it was pretty bad. And after that, I decided that I was not going to remove our child from our house again. So I told him he had to go because I could not think. And during this time, he was really upset, but he wanted to work on things. And so he left. It was around Thanksgiving, and for the first time during this whole time, I felt like he was doing everything for the first time that he should be doing to work on things and things that I deserved during that period for like a week or two. So he gave me passwords. He was telling me things that truth, things that had happened that I didn't want to hear. So, that I needed to, for me, I needed to know things. Some people don't want to know, they don't want to see things. I needed to know, or it would just eat me up, not knowing what truly happened. So he would tell me, things that happened that weren't good things. So I felt like for once he was being honest with me. And so we decided to, like I said, this was around Thanksgiving, Christmas. A week later, I let him come back home, and we went to counseling for about 3 weeks. And so around Christmas time, it kind of just faded off. At first, he was super wanting to work on things. I felt like he was there, he was invested. And then it kind of faded off. And I know he was struggling with what he had done. So he was dealing with his own issues and trying to deal with those and then deal with me. So it was a hard situation altogether. So around Christmas Eve, I found something and I felt like he wasn't being honest, which I don't know still. I don't know if it was anything to worry about, but the week prior, when I would question things, he would get aggravated. And so just multiple things that happened during that time. I felt like the things that I deserved, and especially going through what had happened, I wasn't getting what I deserved at that time. So it was a pretty big, fight, blow up that happened. And so Christmas Day, we went, me and Blaze went to my grandmother's for Christmas. We had Christmas, and it was like God just told me, you've done all that you can do. I told you to go back, you did. And now it's okay. You have done what you needed to do. You can go. And I know that sounds crazy, but so that day after we had Christmas at my grandmother's, I went home and I told him, I can't do it anymore. This is not okay. I told him I know what I deserve and this was not it. And so I decided that day that, that we should, go our separate ways. So that day also, it was I got a text from God, and, I told my family where I was with everything, and for once it was a weight was just lifted off of me. God gave me a complete peace about the situation. And so if you have the Bible app, you probably get verses, at nighttime. There's a verse of the day that will come to my phone at 8:30 every night. And so I was sitting there, and this was the verse. It was a text message from God. It said, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And I have that screenshot and saved on my phone from December 27th, 2017. So no, it wasn't that Christmas day, night. This was a couple days later. But it was he was telling me it's okay. I know you're scared, but it's going to be okay. I got you. And then that same day, I took another screenshot of this. I get the Proverbs 31 emails, and that day it was about when you go through really hard things that you feel like it's going to break you, but relying on God and things like that, so that it won't break you. So this was a verse that was with that. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. And so with both of those, I just felt like a complete peace about it. Yes, I was upset, but also at the same time, I felt like relief because I did not have to worry anymore. Like I said, I was constantly worrying. I was in fear about that whole situation. So I felt for once like at peace, and I knew that I had done everything. I went above and beyond what anyone would usually do in my situation to try to make things work, and they didn't. So I felt like I don't know still 100% why God told me to go back, because when I went back, I'm sure there will be good that comes out of it. And I did learn a lot through that. Like I learned what I was capable of as a woman, because I've never really felt like I was like a strong woman that can, do things and on my own, or even, I just feel like I just wasn't strong, like emotionally. So I did learn a lot in that area. And so, I don't know 100% what the reasoning was. Maybe it was so that I knew that I gave everything and I could be at peace knowing that I did that, and while, with ending the marriage. So I moved out New Year's Eve. We moved out, and we moved out in basically a day. I had a team of people. My best friend Robin carried a chest up the stairs by herself. We moved all day. Like, I don't know how I didn't pass out. I hadn't eaten for days, but we were determined to get it done because I needed to remove myself from that situation. Like, at the time we were still in the same house, but he, was in another room. But I just needed to get out of that situation. The house, like the memories, like it was just, I didn't need to be there anymore. And, going through everything that I did, I felt very, worthless. I had no self-worth at that point, because a lot of it felt like it was me, like that was my fault, like I was lacking things, that's why he had to go do that. And I felt like no one would ever really be able to love me. I was scared of what everyone would think. People would think, oh, he had an affair, so she obviously was, lacking this, or she must have been like a horrible wife or something for him to need to go outside of the marriage. And so, I was embarrassed of that. I was embarrassed of a failed marriage. That's not something that, I feel like most people are proud of. Over the years, I had gained weight, a good bit of weight, because, having to think about things that were hard is not something that I like to do. So food to me, it was comfort. It was something that I did not have to think about. I could just eat food and it was done. I didn't have to put effort into that. And it provided, like I said, it provided me comfort. So I would just eat whatever I wanted to. I ate horrible. Some days I would probably eat fast food 3 times a day. So I was super insecure about that. And I felt like, who's going to want to be with a 30-year-old that has a kid? It's crazy to even hear myself say it now because that's ridiculous, like, for me to even think. But that's the way I felt in that moment because of everything that happened. It just felt like everything, like my thoughts were just really negative at that point. And so I decided at some point to stop feeling sorry for myself and to do something about it. So I was super motivated I started eating a lot better. I started working out every day. If I missed a day, I felt bad about doing that. I was just really into improving myself, like my mental, emotional, physical, just improving myself during this period. So I ended up losing like 50 pounds, which is crazy. That's like, Blaze was in the first grade and I'm pretty sure he weighed 50 pounds. So I'm like, I lost a first grader. Like, what? I just stayed praying, read my Bible, anything that I could do to improve myself. So, when you are going through a divorce and there's a child involved, it takes 90 days. So from when like I filed, it had to be 90 days till we could even like go to court, period. So because they want to give you a chance to work on things if you want to do that. So during that time, that's when I was just really focused on, myself and Blaze and bettering our situation. But when it was final, our divorce was final in June of 2018. It was like the gates opened up and I was like, find a husband right now, like, go. And I went. And so one of my best friends at the time, her husband had a friend and she thought that we would get along so well. So that was like my first date. We went out on a group with them. So, that we went with, and I'm pretty sure I was still pretty insecure. I was in a bad place, even though I had lost the weight. Like, I was in a better place than I had been, but I was still just not especially emotionally, in a good place. And I probably said like 5 words to the guy, and it was pretty bad. I was scared, like I hadn't dated as an adult, and I hadn't dated period since I was 17. I started dating my ex-husband when I was 17, so I hated it. Like, it was horrible. So anyways, I went home that night and I cried. I thought, like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. This is horrible. And for some reason, he asked me to hang out again. So we hung out again, and it went fine. I thought like I was able to talk more because I was like, okay, I was super weird that first time. Like, that's not me at all. And so we hung out again. It went like decent, pretty good compared to the last time. It was very good, but still, like, it still wasn't, it was just weird. So after that night, I went home and we didn't talk to each other again until recently. But so that was that first date. So then I went on like another date with a guy once. We had, talked for a while, and it just didn't work out. It wasn't going to work out. So I decided to sign up for something called Match. I had been on Tinder. My friend put me on Tinder when we went out to eat one night right after my divorce. She signed me or put me on there. And so Match is not like Tinder. On Tinder, you have to, when you swipe on someone and they swipe on you, then y'all can talk. But on Match, anybody can message you. You don't have to say that you like them or whatever it is, or that you're interested. They can message you. It's very overwhelming. A lot of the times, like, I would just click on the message, open it, and close it just so I didn't have to, like, because it was crazy, and they would just keep messaging you, and they would get mad if you didn't message them back. So I thought Match would be a better you know, one to do, because like you have to pay for it. So these people were like, I felt like they were more serious about things. And so I had gotten over it. Like I said, it was overwhelming. So I was about to cancel it. Well, this one guy started talking to me. I talked to him, and we decided to hang out one night. But I had told him, you know, like, just so you know, like, this account's about to close. Like, I don't like it on here at all. So we hung out, and actually the first night we hung out, we went through my match messages because they were hilarious. Like, the things that they would send, it was just really funny. But anyways, we clicked, you know, pretty good. Like, our personalities meshed really well. So we started hanging out more, and I got really comfortable around him. I'm an uncomfortable person. Like, when I meet someone, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just hard for me, or it was then. So I got to where I was really comfortable with him. I could be myself. Like, I could act goofy and stupid, and he didn't make me feel like an idiot for it. So one night I went out with him and one of his friends, and I didn't really talk much. I don't really know why, like, exactly. I think a lot of it was because I was still kind of, you know, like, around new people. Like, I didn't know the guy really well, so it was just really weird because it was, you know, two guys and me, and I didn't really know how I fit into that situation. And like I said, it was still all new to me. So it was just weird. After that night, like, I took him home, and he basically went off on me and told me that I can't remember his exact words, but basically that I was, you know, not doing myself any favors by not being myself, that my personality was good. Like, I had a good personality, I was funny, I was holding myself back by not showing other people that side of me, the side that he got to see. And you know, there were other things that were said, but all of that really helped me, hearing that, I guess, from a guy, which I don't know, it shouldn't have had to come to that point. I should have been able to just, you know, but I needed that for some reason. So it helped me know that, like, it's okay, like, the way that I am. If I act goofy or if I act silly, like, you know, like, that's okay. Like, some people aren't gonna like that. Some people are gonna think I'm an idiot, but some people will think that it's fine. And so that really helped me with that. And so we didn't really talk. Like, we kind of talked after, but it kind of just faded off for about a month. And then about a month later, we started hanging out again, and we got pretty close. It was the closest thing to, like, a relationship that I had post-divorce, but there were a lot of things that, like, I feel like I knew that I could not pursue a relationship with him, but it was hard because at that point there were feelings invested, and I cared about him. And when I care about someone, this is in general with my friends, with anyone, a guy, I don't know how to care just a little bit. Like, it's like, if I care, I'm all in. Like, I'm invested. I care about you. I want, you know, to help you. I want the best for you. So it was really hard for me to just pull myself away from that. And so he had told me, you know, while we were talking, that he wasn't really happy here, that, you know, he didn't know for sure if he would stay here. But I thought, like, once again, you know, I was like, well, that will change if he likes me enough, you know, like, if he liked me enough, or then that will change. And so like I said, I cared. So I stayed in that situation. We were never, like, officially anything, but we hung out a lot. And So there were, I kind of was in denial, like when he said, like he was going to leave, but then he told me that he was looking for a job back home where he was from, and so I still kind of really didn't fully believe it. I thought like, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So he ended up going for an interview back home, and then he came back, and he still like had said like he didn't know for sure if he would get the job, but I feel like I was still in denial. It's weird to say I was in denial, but then I felt like it was going to happen, but it's like I didn't want to come to terms with it was going to happen. So I didn't change anything. I didn't try to back off from him. We kept doing things the same when we hung out. And he ended up getting the job back home and had like a couple weeks, and he was going to be leaving. And it happened really fast, and it was really hard for me because I felt like I told myself, like I said, if he would change his mind, I was hoping, like it made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I wasn't enough for him to stay here. It was me, it wasn't anything to do with the way he, like now that I know he wasn't happy here and I can't make him happy, like he had to be happy on his own. But to me, him leaving him, because he had told me, like I've never gotten along with anyone the way that I get along with you, like we just click really well, like I said, and no one's ever made him laugh the way that I made him laugh. So like it was like I was hearing all these things, but still it was like, okay, but you're not enough, like obviously like he wasn't choosing me, so it was hurtful, like that would be hurtful for anyone. So I felt like I was relapsing into feeling unworthy and not enough. So I remember texting my best friend and telling her, like I was having a hard time. Like, I mean, obviously we talked, but I remember one night she was like, no, we are not going back there. You've come too far. We're not doing this. You need to stop it right now. And it didn't happen overnight. But I was able to pull myself out of that. Like I had the tools at this point to remind myself that had nothing to do with me. That does not mean that I'm not enough. That does not mean that had nothing to do with me. That had everything to do with him and where he was. That wasn't me. And so I was able, to come back from that and process it. And so after that, I still felt alone for a while, and I still, like, I am alone, but it was like I was still focused on that, like right after he left. And so I wasn't focused on the things that I should have been focused on, like myself, my child, things, like I was before. And so I recently got really sick and ended up in the hospital, and I was septic, and it was a really big wake-up call, I feel like, for me, because it was scary. I had never been that sick ever, and I remember telling, my mom, like, when I was so sick, I was like, I just want to die. Like, it was bad. So once I got a little bit better, I felt like that was God, like, saying, time out, like, let's get refocused, let's, now that I got your attention, you've got to get it back together. So that was recently. So I feel like that helped me move back into being refocused on the things that, I need to focus on. And it helped me get to a point to where I am alone, but I'm okay. Like, like I don't have to have someone to make me happy. Like we have a home, an apartment. My kid is really awesome. So I have all these things, like my family, like I have so many things, good friends that I should be thankful for, and I don't have to have a man in my life to complete me. So it's really crazy for me to even say that still, because like before like I said, I was so focused on making that happen and not just waiting and being patient. Like I caused a lot of the pain that I had felt. I caused that, like because I wasn't listening to God and waiting for Him to send someone to me. I was trying to do that myself, and for once I feel okay with where I'm at. And there are still times that every day is not perfect. I have times to where I do feel like alone and I get down and I'm like thinking, will this ever will it ever happen? Like some days it feels like it's never gonna happen, and then other days I feel like, most days I feel like, I have a peace about it that God has someone out there for me, and that I just need to be patient because His timing is, the best. And I've obviously learned that no matter what I do, if it's not the right one, it's not the right one. And I feel like He removed me from those other situations that weren't right for me, and I'm really thankful for that. I feel like they all ended, in me knowing like, okay, that was God removing me, or removing the guy from me so that I could move forward. And so, I haven't lost hope. I feel like my husband is out there somewhere. I don't know what he's doing right now, wasting our time probably. But I am hopeful still. Like I haven't lost hope, but I also don't feel like I have to have that right this second. If it happens, then it happens. That's fine. I ain't gonna be mad. But if it doesn't happen right now, it's okay. Like I'm okay. And it was scary right after my divorce. I was let loose into a world that I had never been in. I had never lived on my own before in my life. I had not dated, because I started dating my ex-husband when I was 17, so I hadn't dated, and I would not wish dating in this world today upon anyone. It's horrible. I don't like it. A lot of people that I talk to that have to do it, they don't like it. So, but it's not going to stop me from, moving forward with my life. So it has to happen, so whatever. But it is really hard still sometimes, because the majority, well, basically all of my friends but one are married or have someone. So it's hard because I don't really feel like I fit in anywhere with my friends or my family. So that's really hard, but they do a good job of, adopting me in and bringing me into their lives. So I just feel like it's all going to be fine. And so all of that being said, that me being where I am today has kind of like made me feel like if there's something that I'm passionate about or that I want to do, that I should just do it. And like a lot of my friends had told me, you should, like, it would be cool to do a YouTube channel about makeup, like you're good at makeup. And I had been involved with pageants, stuff, like I was a director, so I helped the girls with their makeup, and I've done people's makeup, and I've just always loved it. Like I have a lot of makeup, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy, watching other girls on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, doing their makeup. So I thought, like, why not? Like, what do I have to lose? Like, just do it. Like, just do it. So Nike, yeah. So I'm gonna do it, and that's where I am today. The next video won't be so serious, and hopefully you will come back if this didn't bore you to death or scare you away. But the next video will be more makeup related and beauty related. I don't know for sure what the video will be about, but that's what it'll be. So come back and watch next time if you like makeup. If you don't watch it. If you just want to be nosy, you can come watch anyways. Yeah, so bye.